Come make me tell you about the things them way I want, sir. Back in the days when the dancer used to warm, sir. When Clinton Lindsay used to bust them, make them go on, sir. Whole heap of artists Clinton bring come up America. Some never know say Clinton Lindsay.
Hi, welcome back to Now You Know with Clinton Lindsay. I want to thank you for your subscriptions, for your comment, and for helping to spread the word. This time I want to talk about my encounter with what I believe, or who I believe is one of Jamaica's most underrated singers, Tyrone Taylor. You know, he had a lot of hit songs, and I can't remember him coming to New York to do a show, at least not since I started to promote. And I always wonder why. And I said, I would love to have him on one of my shows. I always saw him at Tough Gang. Whenever I went to Tough Gang, for some reason he's always hanging out at Tough Gang studio on Marcus Garvey Drive. We will talk, and I would tell him that I really would love to do a show with him. But when I mentioned that to people in Jamaica, they were always discouraging me to work with Tyrone Taylor, because they're saying he's a troublemaker and I wouldn't be able to handle him and I should stay away because he's really bad news. When I spoke with Tyrone, I never told him what people have said to me about him, but I got the feeling that somehow he sort of figured it out, because he would say things like, I know you're hearing things about me, and I know you're being discouraged, and so on and so on. In 1989, I was putting a package together, and I remember having the Tamblins. It was a Mother's Day weekend package that I was going to do at the Empire Roller Ring in Brooklyn. And I remember I had the Tamblins, I think Screwdriver and Dominic. And I figured this would be a good package to put Tyrone on. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna take the chance, and I'm gonna put him on this package. So when I went back to Jamaica, I told him I wanted to do the show. He was very excited because this was his first New York performance in many years, because of his reputation, being on drugs and all of that, and promoters just didn't want to touch him. So I put the package together. I had another date the following week in New Haven, Connecticut. There's that old theater right there in the college town, and I had a date there also. So now I started to promote after the contract, signed up and everything. I started promoting this show for Mother's Day in Brooklyn. And, I would still get people telling me that I'm making a mistake because this brother is, nothing but trouble and all of that. Time came for the show. Went down to Jamaica to get the artist. Before he arrived in New York, when I was in Jamaica, he told me, he won't be no trouble to me. He will not be a problem. All he wanted me to do when he gets to New York, give him his per diem. I think he would be there for about a week or a week and a half. Give him some per diem, and he had some friends in Manhattan, in Lower Manhattan, that he will stay with, so I don't have to put him up in hotel or anything like that. I said, all right, cool. So when we picked him up at the airport in New York, I gave him maybe $300-400 that could hold him for a couple of days. I gave him my number, and he gave me the number of the person he was staying with in Manhattan. So I could call him and give him the address where the rehearsals are taking place and so on. And he said, no problem. Just call him and tell him where and when. And I tell you, exactly what he did. I would call him and say, Tyrone, the rehearsal is so and so, and he will get there, he will get his rehearsals done, no problem. The night of the show, the first show in Brooklyn, because of the various stories I was told about this man, that you know, he's a troublemaker and he's not gonna show up and all these negative things. I was very concerned the night of the show if he was gonna show up, at least show up. But I tell you one thing, Tyrone showed up, and it was a relief when he showed up. Cause still in the back of my head, I'm still thinking what people had told me about him. He did the show, and he did a show that even his own critics were surprised, because he did some Michael Jackson move there that people weren't expecting from him. He did a lot of his hit songs, and it was very, very good. I was very happy. The following week in New Haven, Connecticut, he did the same thing. He did the same exact thing. He went on stage, he did a fantastic, outstanding performance. If you should ask me, I would say that Tyrone Taylor took the two shows in terms of his performances on those two shows. Never gave me any problem. Not one single problem did I get from Tyrone Taylor. He went back to Jamaica, and my first trip back to Jamaica after that Mother's Day show, I somehow connected with him, let him know I was coming down, and he met me at the airport. He was taking me to the hotel where I was supposed to stay. On the way to the airport, on the airport road, he stopped the car, or I stopped the car. I think I was driving. He took me to this. There was a fisherman right on the coast. This guy was selling oysters. I've never had it before at Tyrone. I said, Tyrone, you know, I've never had it before. He said, no, man, it's good, man. Don't chew, just swallow. And, you know, we came out the car, went over to the fisherman, and the guy, you know, take the knife and open up the thing, pour some, he had a bottle with some, I think, vinegar and some other stuff to kill the rawness of it, or to kill the whatever. I'm telling Tyrone that, you know, I never had this thing before. I said, no, man, you'll be good, you'll be good. Trust me, you'll be good. And the guy opened up the oyster and poured the lemon juice, whatever, vinegar in it. And I put it in my mouth and just made one swallow. No chewing. After that, every time I went to Jamaica and I would go by Tough Gang, I would see Tyrone. I remember one time I was stopping by JBC to check Barry G, and Tyrone was coming out of the building, and when he saw me, he made a quick turn back in the building. But I did see him before, but the person looked like him, but I wasn't too sure, because the last time I saw Tyrone, he was looking good. So eventually he came out, and I'm like, Tyrone? That man looked like he added like 10 years on his life. And I'm like, I asked him, what happened? What happened? Apparently he had gone back on the business, and he was just looking much older than he was. And, you know, I wanted us to do more shows with him, but his condition wasn't up there to do any more shows with him. And I've seen him back and forth a couple of times. And the last time I saw him, he told me he was gonna go into the church and he was gonna get baptized and all that. But it never happened. Tyrone Taylor died in 2007. I think it was in December of 2007. Tyrone Taylor was 54 years old. And I believe he was one of the most underrated singers to come out of Jamaica. My opinion. That's the way it was. I know. Now you know. Thanks for watching, and continue spreading the word. Leave your comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, take care.
Lindsay a promoter. Bring up the biggest set of artists from Jamaica, like Super Cat and Mr. Early be the doctor. Whole heap of artists, none of them me can't remember. Who can remember when them used to keep Jamaica? The kind of show that used to give out no for water. To reggae